Find the center and radius of the circle with a diameter that has endpoints given as 0, 8 and 5, 3. Enter the center as an ordered pair. For example, parentheses 2, 3, close parentheses. Enter the radius as a decimal correct to 3 decimal places. Right, so what we need to do is just realize what a diameter is, because they gave us the endpoints of this diameter. The diameter is a line segment that cuts a circle in half perfectly, right? So I'm just going to give a rough drawing here. If this is my center, sorry, it's ugly, it's not a real circle, but say that's my center, the diameter would be a line that goes straight through the middle from one point on the circle to a point on the opposite side of the circle on the and they would all be collinear with the center. And the diameter would be the segment connecting those two endpoints. So when they ask us to find the center of the circle, they are also asking us to find the midpoint of the diameter with these two endpoints. So for the first part of this, all we need to do is find the midpoint between these two given points. For the second part of the question, we're just going to need to find the radius. Now, you might need to review that the radius is just from the center of the circle out to the edge, any point on the edge, right? So this is the radius, and the whole distance across is the diameter. So if we find the diameter, we can cut it in half just by dividing by 2, and then we'll have the answer for the second part. Another way you could do it is once you know what the center is, you could use the center with one of these other points in the distance formula to find the distance between the center to the point on the circle. Okay, so that is the rundown of what we're going to be doing. So let's go ahead and put it all together. So as I said, the center of the circle would be the midpoint of the diameter. So we're going to use the midpoint formula, and remember the midpoint formula, all we're doing when we find a midpoint of a line segment is we're finding the average of the two x values and the average of the two y values. That's it. So let's go ahead and do that. The two x values given were 0 and 5. So I'm going to average 0 plus 5 divided by 2. And the two y values given were 8 and 3. So I'm going to average 8 and 3, add them together and divide by 2. And that will give me the point coordinates. Okay, so 0 plus 5 is 5, divided by 2 is 5 halves. 8 plus 3 is 11, divided by 2 is 11 over 2. Now, I don't think we need to put it in decimal form or anything like that. Just go ahead and put in the fractions. Make sure that when you are moving to put the comma, you are outside of the fraction. And then we have 11 over 2. And get outside the fraction to close the parentheses. So that should be the answer to the first part. Okay, now we move on to finding the radius. To find the radius, I'm going to, the center is kind of crazy. I don't want to use the center. I was thinking about maybe using the center with one of these other points to find the radius, but no, I don't want to deal with those fractions. So I'm going to use the two given points because they're nice clean integers. I'm going to find the distance between them using the distance formula. That would be the length of the diameter, and then I can divide that by 2 to get the radius. Okay, so the distance for the diameter, okay, the diameter length is going to be found by using this distance formula, which is really the Pythagorean theorem. Okay, the horizontal distance would be the distance between two x values, quantity squared, and that would be like a leg of your right triangle, a squared, right? And then your y values, the distance between your y values, so I could do 3 minus 8 quantity squared. That would be like your b squared, your vertical leg of the right triangle. A squared plus b squared equals c squared, unless you take the square root, and then it's just c. And in this case, we call it d for distance. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm just going to write up in the corner the Pythagorean theorem. And there's an explanation of this in the textbook. It's a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and this always works for right triangles. Okay, and the distance formula really is just that Pythagorean theorem with different symbols and different context, but same idea. All right, we're going to go ahead and simplify this. So 5 minus 0 is just 5. 3 minus 8 is negative 5, quantity squared. And then squaring those, we get 5 squared is 25. Also, negative 5 quantity squared is 25 because negative 5 times negative 5 is positive 25. So we get the square root of 50. And we are supposed to give it corrected 3 decimal places. So I'm not going to mess around with trying to simplify the radical or anything like that. I'm just going to write in my calculator, I'm going to do the square root of 50. And I know you're not using Excel, you're using a scientific calculator, but I'm showing it here in Excel because it's convenient for me to do that. And there is my answer. It says to round to 3 decimal places. Now, typically when they say to round to 3 decimal places, you should probably follow that advice if you want to get it marked right. So it says it right here. Okay. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. That's the third decimal place is that 1 right there. Remember, we always look to the value on the right of it to see if we should round down or up. And since if the number is 5 or higher, you round up. If it's less than 5, you round down. So because I have a 0 to the right of my third decimal place and 0 is less than 5, I will round down. So I'm just going to get rid of the rest of that and submit. Oh, Lordy B. Oh, goodness. You know what I forgot to do? I do this a lot. I get ahead of myself and do what a lot of students probably would do as a mistake. And so I found the distance of the diameter length, right? But don't forget, we talked about the radius being half of that distance. So we need to take this answer and divide it by 2. So I'm just going to take my answer that I previously had and divide it by 2, and I get this answer. And the third decimal place has a 5 to the right of it. Okay, here's my third decimal place, and it has a 5 to the right of it, which means I need to round up. So I'm going to just make that last 5 a 6. Good job. All right, now do I have anything else on this page? Oh, wait, we're not doing a page. Okay, we're done. See you in the next video.